Act 2. Turning the Tide. After Gergovia, we marched with weight in our hearts, but not in flight. Caesar's will pressed us forward like the hand of Jupiter himself. Yet not 2 weeks along the Loire, word came like a javelin to the gut. The Aedui, Rome's trusted allies, or so we thought, had turned. Not in some quiet rebellion or whisper of discontent. No, they struck with precision. They seized Noviodunum. But it wasn't just a town. It was our lifeline. I remember the exact moment the courier arrived. His mount foam-lathered, his eyes hollow with fatigue. The scroll he handed to Caesar was sealed in red wax, but the way his hand trembled told us enough. I stood with Drusus not 20 paces from the general's tent as Caesar read it, his lips tight, the color in his face turning colder by the second. Your Noviodunum held everything: the treasury, our grain reserves, the hostages of conquered tribes, children and chieftains alike, given as oaths of loyalty. I'd fought beside Aeduan auxiliaries, shared campfires with their scouts, watched them pledge themselves to Caesar, and now they had thrown it all away. Years of alliance shattered for a single grasp at Gallic glory, and we, the 10th, were marching deeper into a land that no longer knew the meaning of Roman friendship. That night, I couldn't sleep. The men around me stirred with unease. Even Pullo, usually all grins and swagger, was quiet. I sat sharpening my gladius by firelight. I found myself wondering what kind of people change allegiance with the wind. These Gauls, fierce in battle, proud in defiance, yet their loyalty meant nothing. One day, swearing oaths to Rome, the next, raising arms against us. Was this the nature of a people without law, without discipline? They called it freedom. I called it chaos. And chaos had no place under the eagle. It wasn't just betrayal. It was insult. And I knew Caesar would answer it not with words, but with steel. I remember the silence that fell when word reached the command tent. Caesar said nothing at first, but his officers did. Retreat, some urged. Fall back to Narbonensis, preserve what remains, resupply, strike again when the legions are stronger. It made sense, tactically. The war, they argued, was lost for now. A withdrawal south could buy us time. But Caesar refused. To retreat would mean forfeiting everything we had taken in 6 years of blood and conquest. Worse, it would abandon Labienus, still fighting near Lutetia, to his fate. The Cevenna Mountains made any safe retreat near impossible. Jagged ridges, snow even in spring. And most of all, it would embolden Vercingetorix and spread the rebellion like wildfire. Caesar rejected the proposal without hesitation. "We do not yield Gaul," he said, "not to treachery." So we turned north. We marched hard into Aeduan lands. No siege engines, no delays. This was not a campaign of conquest. It was a campaign of retribution. Every town that barred its gates met Roman steel. We breached palisades with axes and torches. Those who resisted were struck down. Their chiefs, if captured, were tried swiftly and hung where their people could see. Grain stores were seized, shrines desecrated, and roads cleared by fire. There was no pity in it, only purpose. These tribes had chosen to betray Rome, to trade law and order for chaos and pride. They had broken faith, and so they were broken in turn. We needed to send a message. To remind Gaul what happens when you raise your hand against the eagle. It was Roman discipline writ in flame and steel. The legions moved with brutal efficiency. My century took 3 villages in as many days. Crispus joked we were marching faster backward through friendly territory than we ever did forward into enemy land. At dawn, a courier arrived. Dust-caked, he bore grim tidings. Labienus had failed to take Lutetia and withdrawn to Agendicum. Street fighting had cost him dearly. He had saved the legions, but barely. I stood behind Caesar as he read the scroll. His face gave nothing away. Only when he finished did he speak. We go to him. Orders flew like lightning. Within an hour, we were on the road again, leaving the ruins of Aeduan loyalty behind us. We marched fast and hard, crossing the Loire under clouded skies. Every man knew we were walking into danger, but we also knew we never leave our own. We met Labienus in the heart of Gaul, at Agendicum. His legions were battered, his men hollow-eyed, but they stood. And with that reunion, the Roman army was whole again. Meanwhile, Vercingetorix moved just as swiftly. In Bibracte, he gathered all who still opposed us. He was crowned High Commander of the Gallic peoples, tribes pledged warriors, 15,000 in all. They would scorch the fields, destroy their own villages, and deny us every resource. And then they would strike at Narbonensis. The command tent was already thick with tension when the scout arrived. Mud-caked, panting, one arm wrapped in a bloodied sling. He didn't even wait to be announced, just pushed past the guards and dropped to one knee before Caesar. Narbonensis, sir. They're moving against it. Vercingetorix has sent riders, orders for every tribe south of the Loire. They mean to break the province. The silence that followed could have broken a lesser man. I was there, standing near the back with Drusus. Around us, the senior officers exchanged looks. Even Labienus had gone quiet. Caesar stepped forward slowly, took the scroll from the scout's trembling hands. His eyes swept across it. No change in his face, not a flicker. Then he spoke. Lucius commands 22 cohorts, too few. He looked up, his voice cut like a gladius. We move south at once. No argument, no debate. The meeting dissolved into motion, officers barking orders, aides racing for the maps. Drusus and I followed Caesar out into the night air. He said nothing more, but I could feel it. The iron behind his silence. Treachery had lit the fire. Now Caesar meant to stamp it out. So we turned again, this time to the south. Vercingetorix shadowed us, waiting for weakness. And when we reached the highlands of the Lingonese, he pounced. The first scream came from the rear. I was riding beside Drusus near the center of the column when the dust plume rose behind us, fast and low, like a tide of insects. Horns sounded, shouts cracked down the line, and then we saw them, Gallic cavalry, swarming from the eastern trees, pouring onto the ridgeline like a dam burst. Up, flank! Shields up! I bellowed, drawing my gladius as the carts buckled under the sudden charge. The line staggered, our baggage train jolted, oxen panicked. I saw a wagon topple, crushing a mule and sending amphorae of oil smashing into the dirt. Auxiliaries scrambled to form a perimeter, but the Gauls hit us like thunder. Their horses, taller, sleeker than ours, crashed down from the ridge, aiming for our exposed side. Drusus rallied the left, shouting orders and swinging his staff. I raced to the front of my century, yelling for the standard to rise. We barely had time to form up. The Gauls were on us, screaming, wild-eyed, slashing with curved blades. I took one through the neck as he rode past, his blood hot on my face. Behind me, Pullo dragged a legionary out from under a wounded mount and threw a pilum through a rider's spine. But the Germans couldn't catch them. They tried. Gods, they tried. They surged up the slope, snarling through their beards, their mounts wheezing under weight they weren't bred to carry. But the Gallic cavalry danced just out of reach, faster, longer-legged, and perfectly suited to this ground. It was like watching hounds chase stags uphill. One German fell behind, his pony collapsing beneath him, crushed under the strain. Another lost his spear in the charge, swiping at a target already gone. Drusus saw it too. "They're not fast enough," he spat. "Not like this." I didn't respond. I was too focused on the gap forming in our flank. The Germans were too slow, the Gallic riders too nimble, and in their wake came chaos. Our column, already straining under attack, now looked ready to tear open at the seams. "Shields! Hold tight! Lock the wall!" I shouted. My century drew in on itself like a turtle. The shield wall slammed together, iron rims kissing iron, braced knees anchoring the line. Arrows hammered our scuta, blades sparked along the edges, but we held. The Gauls wheeled past, unable to break through us but harassing every exposed point they could find. We couldn't last forever like this. That's when the order came. "Give your horses to the Germans." Officers dismounted without question, no time for pride. The Germanic cavalry took our reins and mounted fast, grim-faced, barbaric, perfect for what came next. They charged up the ridge. It was like watching wolves fall on deer. The Germans hit the Gallic flank with a fury even our own men feared. Spears drove deep, riders toppled. The hilltop, once in enemy hands, turned into a slaughter ground. The Gallic line buckled, then snapped. I watched them turn, panic spreading like fire. They broke. "Advance!" I roared. "Press them while they run." We surged forward. Not a full charge. We were still defending, but enough to harry their retreat, to stab and gut and drag men from saddles. By nightfall, the field was ours. 4,000 Gauls lay dead, most of them Aedui. A scout returned at dusk, his cloak torn, one side of his face streaked with blood not his own. He rode straight for the command tent, dismounted without ceremony, and saluted with clenched teeth. "Imperator," he rasped. "He's headed northwest, broke off just after sunset. No full retreat, more like a planned withdrawal. They're not scattering." Drusus and I exchanged a look. "Where?" Caesar asked, his voice low but sharp. The scout swallowed hard. "Alesia, sir. He's making for the Mandubi stronghold, high ground, fortified." A pause stretched out like a drawn bowstring. Then Caesar nodded. "Then that is where we ended." Vercingetorix vanished into the west, toward Alesia. And this time, we followed. Not as a scattered column, but as a blade drawn for the throat. For more stories, like and subscribe.